back to the channel. I am so excited for today's video because I get to talk about one of my favorite experiences from my cruise on the Disney Wish, and that's dining at Enchanté. This was my first time trying a full vegetarian 6-course menu, and let me just say it was amazing. So if you're curious about the vegetarian offerings or just want to see what Enchanté is all about, then this video is for you. Let's jump in. Enchanté is one of the fine dining adult-only options on board the Disney Wish, along with Palo. Now, Palo can be found across the fleet, but Enchanté is on the Triton-class ships, similar to Remy being on the Dream-class ships. This is kind of the top-tier dining option. Throughout my time on Disney cruise ships, either as a crew member or sailing as a guest, I have had the opportunity to dine in Palo. They've all been amazing experiences, but this was my first time dining at that next-level dining experience, so of course, I wanted to document it and share it all here, specifically the vegetarian menu and how it compared to the main menu. I was curious to see if it was worth the pretty expensive price tag that comes along with this dinner. So let's jump into this video and I'll share my thoughts on it all, from food to ambiance and just overall experience. First off, I should say from the moment we walked into the Rose, which is the bar just outside of the restaurants, we were fully immersed in the elegance the space had to offer. I didn't mention before, but on the Wish, these fine dining restaurants are themed to Beauty and the Beast. So we have the Rose, which is based off of the Enchanted Rose, and it's just a beautiful bar. It has rose petals behind the bar too, which is really lovely. Then there's Palo Steakhouse, which has Cogsworth welcoming guests, and Enchanté is Lumiere. You walk down this beautiful long hallway, and the first thing you see is this gorgeous chandelier. It's meant to represent popping bubbles out of a champagne, much like the scene in Beauty and the Beast during Be Our Guest when all of the champagne bottles are popping, and we just love a champagne moment. Which leads me to a super special treat. After getting seated, the sommelier walks over with a trolley cart of champagne and offers champagne for purchase. We did take advantage of this. We got the house champagne, which was the most affordable option, at $18 a glass, so still a little bit high on the price range, but we were celebrating a special occasion and it was really worth it to us. Here's a look at the menu. So you can see that there's 3 different prefix menus and an a la carte option as well. The top one, the Passion menu, is what my mom went for. This is kind of your main 6-course menu. And then I went for the Potager menu, and this was the vegetarian option. And for reference, both came in at the same price at $135. The whole menu was curated by a Michelin star chef, which is very cool. The meal started with a surprise from the chef, the amuse bouche, but there were actually 2 of these. So the first one we'll call like the little welcome bite. These were like little tiny bursts of flavors. They were so good. One was beetroot, one was cheesy, one was falafel, but all like the next level. It really set the tone. It was elegant and delicious and beautiful. A bread service followed. We had French bread from apparently the best bakery in Paris. It was served with a perfect cube of butter, 10 out of 10 on presentation, and then this tiny little bowl of sea salt with this little spoon that you could sprinkle the sea salt on top. I would have loved more of this bread, but we still had a whole 6-course menu to follow, so one piece was just enough, but it was so good. Then the main amuse-bouche arrived, and this was a cabbage dish, almost like a cabbage dumpling. It had little bits of cabbage and carrot inside, and it was served in this buttery white wine sauce. Super light, but again, so much flavor, and I think that that was the theme for all of these dishes that come to follow. They were really small, but really powerful with different flavors and textures. We also ordered a bottle of wine to share for the dinner. We got a bottle of Chablis, which I think really paired nicely with all of the different dishes. Next was the starter course, the official first course of the menu, which for me was a light and refreshing beetroot dish. There was beetroot confit under a super thinly sliced beetroot covered in a frothy wine sauce, and the plating was stunning. You can tell that the chefs care as much about how the meal looks as it tastes. Course number 2 was a warm course, so mine was a rich and velvety gnocchi that came with onion confit, little Parmesan crisps, and a creamy yellow wine sauce. I really loved the presentation of this one. It reminded me so much of a little garden. Now, I had gnocchi the night before at one of the other ship restaurants, World of Marvel, but the 2 dishes were so different, both really good, but it was so nice to see how one dish could be prepared in such different ways. This next dish was gorgeous. This was a baby carrot dish. It was baby carrots in a champagne foam sauce. It was a beautifully balanced dish with roasted carrots, confit, quinoa, and a light, sensational sauce that tied everything together. The textures were perfect, and I couldn't get over the fact that this was was all just carrot. The following dish was a ravioli with barberry, which I've never had barberry before, so that was really fun to try. To me, it was almost like a fig. It was very earthy and sweet. This is what I would have considered to be the main course of our meal. This was definitely the heartier of the items on the potager menu. Then came a fun little twist, a cheese course. This is the same on both menus. It helped transition the meal from savory to sweet without being too heavy. But when I first saw it on the menu, I expected just a little plate of cheese to arrive for each of us. But instead, a full-on cheese trolley came to our table and our amazing waiter talked us through all the cheeses as he plated them. If you like cheese, this part is a dream come true and just worth the experience right here. And finally, we're on to dessert. But not just one, not two, there were 3 desserts that came our way. So starting from the first, this was truly a work of art, a 5-star presentation. This golden egg arrived at our table and inside was a special birthday dessert as we were celebrating my mom's birthday. The dessert part was almost like a custard cream filling with dark chocolate ganache, probably one of my favorite desserts that we had. The second and main dessert that was served was something fruity. I want to say passion fruit, but I have to admit by this point we pretty much finished our bottle of wine and overindulged throughout the whole meal, so I can't remember too many of the details other than I really did enjoy it. And by this point of the meal, I was so full, but you can probably guess there was still more to come. This box appears. It almost looks like a cigar box, but inside were 6 different bite-sized desserts. Very full circle from the bites we had at the start of the meal. All of them were so different and fun to try, and thank goodness they were small because we really couldn't manage much more. We did order some coffees to finish it all off just to keep us going throughout the rest of the night because it would have been really easy to slip into a food coma. And although it was listed as a 6-course meal on the menu, when you break down all the different elements, it was closer to an 11-course meal. Adding on wine and champagne and coffee, it was just the ultimate treat. So I think we can agree that the food was really good, but let's talk about the vibe. Enchanté is beautifully designed, soft lighting, elegant details. You'll definitely feel like you're somewhere special. The views are phenomenal too. If you're sitting at a 2-top, I'm pretty sure all of the tables are lined up like ours was, where both guests are overlooking the ocean. Then I believe if you're in a larger party, you're up a little bit elevated at a booth, but still everyone has a gorgeous view of the sea. So truly a great view and experience no matter where you're sat. And the service was excellent, top tier, outstanding. When we first sat down, they did check in to see how much time we had to enjoy our evening at Enchanté. I think the recommended time is between 90 minutes to 2 hours, but we were there closer to 3.5 hours. So we did let them know that the only thing we wanted to do that night was head out to see the late night pirate show and the fireworks. So our dinner reservation was at 6 and we ended up leaving just before 9:30. Had time to get in our pirate gear and head up to see the fireworks show. So I would just keep that in mind. If you are booking and want to enjoy the most of your experience, allow for a little bit of extra time. The staff was so great in explaining every single dish and where things came from. They answered any questions we had and made it feel very personal. I also never once felt like I was missing out by being vegetarian. All in all, the big question stands, would I recommend it? Absolutely, but with a few considerations. It's definitely a splurge, but if you're celebrating something special or if you're a big foodie and want to experience Michelin star dining, it's definitely worth the splurge. The main thing I would just advise on is the time it takes to truly enjoy it. So if you're a first-time cruiser and you haven't experienced the other included offerings, you might just want to make sure that you're not missing out on something else that evening. We booked our dinner for Pirate Night because it had the least amount of conflicting scheduled cruise activities. Our cruise was a 4-night, so there weren't any shows in the Walt Disney Theater, and we weren't missing out on any of the other themed nights in the rotational dining. Across the fleet, Pirate Night has the same menu for every single restaurant. Having worked on ships for many years, I've dined in the restaurants during Pirate Night. My mom has come to sail with me numerous amounts of time, and we've had the pirate menu plenty. So we didn't feel like we were missing out on one of those offerings either. So all that to say, if this is your first time sailing with Disney, Enchanté might get in the way of some of those included experiences, but it's still a really great time, very worth it. But it all just depends on what's important for you in your vacation. As for me and my mom, this was an outstanding dining experience, and I am so grateful we treated ourselves to it. So for vegetarians or any other dietary restrictions, I definitely recommend letting them know in advance. I did mark it down in the booking, and I also called Enchanté on the first day just to make sure everything was all good to go. As you saw on the menu, the potager menu was all vegetarian friendly. However, it's not vegan, it's not gluten-free, so I would definitely follow up if you have more specific dietary restrictions. And one last thing before we wrap up this video, I was asked if I prefer Palo over Enchanté, but it's a really difficult comparison. I feel Like they're such beautiful experiences in their own, but so different from one another. So I've had the amazing opportunity to dine at Palo many a times. I feel like Palo is that fine dining fancy restaurant that you could go to again and again and try different dishes. It's a bit more of like a larger portion versus a tasting menu, so you could try different things every time you go. Whereas Enchanté, with it being a set tasting menu, I feel like I wouldn't want to recreate that experience again and again because it was so wonderful the first time. It was so unique and creative that I wouldn't want to try to replicate it in case it wasn't as good as it was the first time. However, if I get a chance to dine at Remy on the Dream Class ships, I wouldn't say no. There you go, that wraps up my dining experience at Enchanté, specifically as a vegetarian. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're planning to dine at Enchanté or have any other questions, be sure to drop them in the comments down below. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more cruise vlogs and fun adventures. I'll see you in the next video. Bye! All that food talk's made me really hungry. I gotta go make some lunch. Cheese trolley? Service here, I tell you.